The boxing world is insanely divided regarding their thoughts and opinions in the aftermath of the razor-thinly close fight between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Now, both fans and fighters are split in the middle and have voiced out their reactions in what could be one of the most controversial endings to a fight this year, and what could also be a possible and potential setup for what is set to be a trilogy rivalry in the making. Now, going into this fight, we all knew that it was going to be 50-50. Not only did the actual numbers and betting odds reflect that, fighters, fans, boxing experts prior to this fight were in agreement that this was going to be a very, very close fight. Coming into this match, supporters and critics of both Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, despite backing up their respective fighters, were honest of the fact that they were not fully confident that the fighter that they were rooting for would win. Basically a testament of how extremely close and equal they saw the opposing team was. Now let's fast forward to everyone's reaction after Artur Beterbiev was named the new undisputed light heavyweight champion. There are three opinions in the aftermath of this insanely close fight. Now, before we dive into these three very contradicting thoughts, I just want to say that these three arguments are all valid in their own ways. Once again, the fight was too close to call that one argument does not fully invalidate the other two. And at the end, everyone is entitled to their own thoughts and opinions. Because I personally feel that scotoma played a significant role in the thought process of how people perceive this fight. If you guys are not familiar with what scotoma is, in a psychological context, scotoma is a mental blind spot where someone would overlook certain things due to emotional biases or preconceived notions. To make it more simple, the mind sees what it chooses to see. With this being said, if you as a fan find yourself backing up one of these thought processes, rest assured your argument is completely valid. Well, at least for the most part. So what are these three things that people have been arguing about? The first one is that Beterbiev won, period. The second, Bivol won because he outboxed Beterbiev and was robbed of the victory. And the third one is that the fight was a draw. Now let's discuss all three of these and the rationale regarding how people are backing up their respective stance. Firstly, the argument that Artur Beterbiev won. Now, the people that are in this category of the argument are simply pointing out that Artur Beterbiev clearly won. People are saying that yes, the fight was definitely close, but it was obvious that Beterbiev won the championship rounds and that Dmitry Bivol was on survival mode during the last quarter of the fight. The first couple of rounds was definitely Bivol's, there's no argument there. But during the second half of the fight, Beterbiev would not only finish each round convincingly strong, the damages that was being inflicted towards Bivol was also physically and visually more convincing. People who are saying that Beterbiev won argue that Bivol's face alone in the aftermath of the fight was an obvious sign and visual representation of why Beterbiev is the winner. Again, their argument is that Beterbiev won because not only did he win the championship rounds and force Bivol to be on survival mode, but also, with each round that Bivol may have been initially winning, Beterbiev would end those rounds in his favor. All of these in addition to Beterbiev being the constant aggressor all throughout the evening. Yes, the fight was close, but it was not a robbery. Now for the second argument. Bivol won and outboxed Beterbiev. Okay, now the point that is being laid out here is that Dmitry Bivol outboxed, landed more clean shots, and was simply the more tactical as well as technical boxer. It's also worth pointing out that the argument here is geared not necessarily against Artur Beterbiev, but more so of how the fight was scored and of course that infamous 116-112 score. Fans, fighters, and supporters of this idea are saying that Bivol was simply exhibiting the art of boxing. A lot of in and out movements and clean landing shots. Now, even though they may not directly admit that Bivol lost the championship rounds, they fully believe that Dmitry Bivol has done enough prior to round 10 for him to earn enough points to be crowned as the new undisputed light heavyweight champion. They're arguing that the judges were so focused towards the last minute of each round in which Beterbiev would mostly dominate that they would forget that the first 2 minutes of those rounds, it was actually Bivol who was scoring more points and was outboxing Beterbiev. Now, simply put, the argument here is that Beterbiev was outboxed. Dmitry Bivol won by points, and the results was a full-on public display of corruption, politics, and was simply, in boxing terms, a robbery. For the third and final argument, in the eyes of these viewers, the fight was a draw. Simple as that. Members of the boxing community who are backing up this call argue that the fight was too close and could have gone either way. Also, by simply combining the rationales that the first two arguments have laid out, and by carefully considering each point the two sides have presented, this would then be the most logical decision and result that could have been made. This argument focuses on the reason that even though both Bivol and Beterbiev may have won specific rounds, if you look at the fight as a whole or in general, it still wasn't convincing enough to fully outclass the other. So now that we've presented these cases, what does this mean for both Beterbiev and Bivol? Well, both men are taking the results very humbly. Beterbiev says that even though he won, he believes that a win over somebody does not automatically make you a better fighter than the other. Dmitry Bivol, on the other hand, says that he humbly respects the decision and admits that there is always room for improvement, suggesting that sometimes the patient needs to take an awful tasting medicine to get better. Both men have expressed willingness and are open to a rematch, which is always great news to boxing fans, as this could potentially be the initial step for a trilogy. It's also worth noting that even though Bivol's manager is saying that they will file an appeal and protest the result, based on Dmitry Bivol's latest statements, it's very evident that he's really not supporting this kind of route that his manager is taking. Dmitry Bivol said that he's ready to move forward, he lost already, it's done. Now going back to the three arguments that we discussed earlier, let me ask you this. Which one do you find yourself supporting? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for more quick talks.